100 million. That's not the population of a country. That's not the number of smartphones sold last year. That's how many of this motorcycle Honda has sold since 1958. The Honda Super Cub. You've probably never heard of it if you're American, but this little 50cc motorcycle outsold every Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Bugatti ever made, combined, times nearly 300. But here's what's really crazy. Honda didn't just accidentally stumble into this success. They engineered it. Every bolt, every design choice, every marketing decision was calculated to create the most successful vehicle in human history. So how did a small Japanese company, in a war-torn nation, create something that would change transportation forever? The answer will blow your mind. Picture this. It's 1958. Japan is still rebuilding from World War II. The average worker makes about 15,000 yen per month, roughly $40 at the time. A small car costs 400,000 yen. Do the math. That's over 2 years' salary for a basic car. For millions of Japanese people, personal motorized transportation seemed impossible. The streets were dominated by bicycles. Public transportation was packed beyond capacity. People walked everywhere. And into this chaos, Honda was about to drop a revolution disguised as basic transportation. But first, let me tell you about the man behind it all. Soichiro Honda wasn't your typical businessman. He was a mechanic, a racer, a dreamer who believed that everyone deserved the freedom of personal transportation. He'd already disrupted the market once in 1946 by clipping small engines onto bicycles, creating motorized bikes from war surplus parts. But those were crude, unreliable machines that broke down constantly. Honda wanted something revolutionary, something that would transform not just transportation, but society itself. The challenge Honda set for his team was monumental. Create a vehicle that was cheaper than any other motorized vehicle to operate, more reliable than anything on the market, simple enough for anyone to ride, powerful enough for daily use, and respectable looking, not like a motorcycle. And here's the kicker. It had to look respectable. In 1950s Japan, motorcycles were associated with rebels and troublemakers. Honda needed something that a businessman could ride to work, that a housewife could use for shopping, that wouldn't embarrass anyone. While Harley-Davidson was building chrome-laden cruisers for American rebels, and Triumph was crafting cafe racers for British speed demons, Honda was asking a completely different question. What if we built something for everyone else? Enter Takeo Fujisawa, Honda's business partner, and the engineering team led by Kiyoshi Kawashima. They didn't just design a motorcycle, they reimagined what personal transportation could be. The development took 3 years and nearly bankrupted Honda. The company invested 1 billion yen, their entire capital, and then some, into developing this single model. Engineers built and destroyed hundreds of prototypes. They tested engines until they literally exploded. They rode prototypes until they fell apart, then figured out why and started over. But the breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Honda engineers studied American appliance design principles. Honda's engineers studied how Maytag and Whirlpool had made complex machinery simple enough for housewives to operate. They applied the same philosophy to the Super Cub. The result was genius in its simplicity. First, the engine. The 49 cubic centimeter overhead valve, air-cooled, 4-stroke single cylinder. Now, 49 cubic centimeters is tiny. Most modern lawnmowers have bigger engines. But Honda's engineers achieved something remarkable. Through precision engineering and an overhead valve design, unusual for such a small engine, they extracted up to 4.5 horsepower at around 9,000 plus RPM. Let me put that in perspective. Contemporary mopeds with similar displacement were making 2 to 3 horsepower at best. The Super Cub's engine was spinning at nearly 10,000 RPM, race bike territory for the era, but doing it reliably, hour after hour, day after day. The secret was in the metallurgy. Honda developed new aluminum alloys for the cylinder head and precision cast the cylinder to tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. But here's where it gets really interesting. The transmission. Honda created one of the first widely mass-produced semi-automatic clutches for a motorcycle. Think about that. On a normal motorcycle, you need to coordinate the clutch lever with your left hand, the throttle with your right hand, and the gear shifter with your left foot. It's like patting your head while rubbing your stomach while hopping on one leg. The Super Cub eliminated the hand clutch entirely. The system was elegantly simple. A centrifugal clutch engaged automatically when you twisted the throttle. You still shifted gears with your foot, 3 speeds in the original model, but the clutch handled itself. Anyone who could ride a bicycle could master the Super Cub in minutes. This wasn't just convenient, it was revolutionary. It meant delivery drivers could carry packages with one hand. Housewives in skirts could ride without wrestling with a clutch lever. Office workers could commute without getting their suits dirty. The frame was equally innovative. Honda pioneered the step-through design, creating what they called an underbone frame. Instead of having to swing your leg over a high seat like a traditional motorcycle, you could step through the middle like mounting a scooter. But unlike a scooter with its small wheels and poor handling, the Super Cub used 17-inch wheels, the same size as many full-size motorcycles. This gave it stability at speed and the ability to handle rough roads. The bodywork was pressed steel with a plastic leg shield. Sounds basic, right? It was brilliant. The leg shield protected riders from road spray and engine heat. Pressed steel was cheap to manufacture but looked clean and modern. Honda even included a fully enclosed chain case. On other motorcycles, chains needed constant adjustment and threw grease everywhere. The Super Cub's chain ran in an oil bath, sealed from the elements. It could go up to 6,000 miles between adjustments. Now, the performance numbers don't sound impressive on paper. Top speed, 43 miles per hour, 0 to 30, about 5 seconds. But here's what those numbers don't tell you. Fuel economy, 200 miles per gallon. Let that sink in, 200 miles per gallon. At 1958 fuel prices in Japan, about 50 yen per liter, you could ride for a week on the cost of a bowl of ramen. Maintenance intervals were equally revolutionary. While British bikes needed valve adjustments every 500 miles and Harleys required constant tinkering, the Super Cub could run 3,000 miles between tune-ups. The Super Cub was one of the earliest motorcycles with a paper air filter, another Honda innovation that cost pennies and took seconds to change. The spark plug lasted 6,000 miles. Some owners reported running Super Cubs for 20,000 miles with nothing but oil changes. Honda didn't stop at engineering. They revolutionized manufacturing too. The Suzuka factory, built specifically for Super Cub production, was the most advanced motorcycle plant in the world. Honda implemented statistical quality control learned from American industrial engineer W. Edwards Deming. Every part was measured. Every process was documented. Defect rates dropped to levels unheard of in motorcycle manufacturing. By 1959, 1 year after launch, Honda was building 5,000 Super Cubs per month. By 1960, that number hit 16,000. The Suzuka plant was running 3 shifts, 24 hours a day. But Japan alone couldn't absorb this production. Honda needed to go global. The American invasion began in 1959, but not how you'd expect. While Harley-Davidson marketed to rebels and outlaws, Honda launched the most unlikely ad campaign in motorcycle history. You meet the nicest people on a Honda. The ads showed college students, housewives, and businessmen riding Super Cubs. Clean-cut, respectable, normal. The campaign was created by Gray Advertising and cost Honda $5 million, an astronomical sum for a motorcycle company. Harley dealers laughed. The press was skeptical. Who would buy a 50cc motorcycle in the land of V8 engines and interstate highways? Everyone, as it turned out. By 1963, Honda was selling 7,000 units per month in America alone. College campuses were overrun with Super Cubs. Pizza delivery guys adopted them en masse. The U.S. Postal Service tested them for mail delivery. Even police departments bought them for parking enforcement. But the real explosion happened in Asia. In Thailand, the Super Cub became so ubiquitous that Honda became the generic word for any motorcycle. Same story in Vietnam, where modified Super Cubs could carry entire families or 400 pounds of cargo. In Indonesia, Super Cub engines powered everything from fishing boats to generators. The numbers are staggering. By 1968, 10 years after introduction, Honda had sold 5 million Super Cubs. By 1974, that number hit 10 million. Production expanded to 15 countries. Each market got slightly different versions. More power for American highways, smaller fuel tanks for European regulations, heavy-duty suspensions for Southeast Asian roads. The engineering evolved constantly but carefully. The 1960 model got a 4-speed transmission. 1963 brought the overhead cam C100 engine with 5.5 horsepower. 1964 introduced the Sports Cub with 8 horsepower from a bored-out 86 cubic centimeter engine. But Honda never changed the fundamental design. The step-through frame, the horizontal engine, the semi-automatic transmission, these remained constant. Reliability stories became legendary. A Thai farmer reported 180,000 kilometers on his 1961 Super Cub with only routine maintenance. A Japanese postal worker logged 300,000 kilometers delivering mail. In Vietnam, mechanics specialized in rebuilding Super Cubs with over 500,000 kilometers. The engines just wouldn't die. The 1966 introduction of the C50 model marked a significant evolution. The new cylinder head featured a more efficient combustion chamber shape, influenced by lessons from Honda's F1 program. Power increased to 4.8 horsepower, but more importantly, fuel economy improved to 215 miles per gallon. Here's what really separated the Super Cub from everything else. Honda never stopped making it. While other manufacturers chased trends, Honda kept building Super Cubs. When scooters got popular, Honda kept building Super Cubs. When sport bikes exploded, Honda kept building Super Cubs. When adventure bikes became the rage, Honda kept building Super Cubs. The production numbers tell the story. 1997, 35 million total. 2005, 50 million. 2008, 60 million. Each milestone came faster than the last. October 2017, the 100 millionth Honda Super Cub rolls off the production line at the Kumamoto factory. No other vehicle, not the VW Beetle, not the Model T, not the Toyota Corolla, had ever reached this number. The ceremony was surprisingly modest. Takahiro Hachigo, Honda's CEO, simply said, "The Super Cub is a partner to people's lives." Today, you can buy a brand new Super Cub for about $3,600. It'll still get 150 plus miles per gallon. It'll still run for decades with basic maintenance. It'll still transport you reliably, economically, respectfully. The Super Cub didn't just democratize transportation for half the planet. It enabled small businesses from Bangkok to Lima. It connected rural villages to urban markets. It gave mobility to people who never could have afforded cars. 100 million Super Cubs. Each one representing someone's first job, first date, first taste of freedom. Each one engineered to the same exacting standards. Each one a testament to the radical idea that everyone deserves reliable, affordable transportation. That's not just manufacturing success. That's engineering democracy. That's changing the world one small motorcycle at a time. What's your Super Cub story? Maybe you've seen them buzzing through the streets of Bangkok or Hanoi. Maybe your dad had one in college. Maybe you're one of the millions whose life was changed by this humble machine. Share your story in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the most successful vehicle ever created, make sure to subscribe because the stories of engineering genius hiding in plain sight, they're just getting started. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and remember, sometimes the greatest innovations are the ones that make the complex beautifully simple.